4.7 is titled Solving Multi-Step Equations. So we're still in our 7.af.2 standard, but what we're really focusing on today is the fact that we want to have some rational numbers that aren't integers anymore. So we're going to be focusing a little bit on decimals and fractions being in our equations and how to deal with those while we solve them. So the steps to solving a multi-step equation. You always want to distribute first, then clear out any fractions, and then steps 3 and 4 are identical to solving two-step equations where you undo addition and subtraction, then undo multiplication and division. So we're just going to look at these equations on a case-by-case basis, and then hopefully by the end of the lesson you have enough tools to understand what needs to be done. So for example 1, we have 3 times the quantity of b plus 9 equal to negative 6. The first thing we want to do is distribute. We have the distributive property here, and we know that because we have a set of parentheses with a number out in front. So the first thing we're going to do is distribute the 3 through the parentheses. That gives us 3b plus 27 equals negative 6. There are no fractions to clear, and now we're the same place we were yesterday, so we're going to undo addition. We always undo addition or subtraction first before we try to take care of the multiplication. So we're going to bring down 3b, and you can use a calculator, remember, or you can just do negative 6 minus 27 in your head, but you get negative 33. Now we're going to divide both sides by 3, and we get b equals negative 11. Now what I want you to notice is we are asked to check our solution. So we think this is our answer. We're going to plug negative 11 back into the original equation. So order of operations says we want to take care of the inside parenthesis first. Negative 11 plus 9 is negative 2. And 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. So we get a correct check, which means our answer is correct if b equals negative 11. If you'd like to pause the video and try this one on your own, again, we do have the distributive property. So the first thing we need to do is distribute through the parenthesis. That gives us negative 8 minus 4n. Remember that a negative 4 and a positive n, that's minus 4n, equals 16. Now here we have to be careful. So we're trying to get the negative 8 to the other side, or we're trying to get rid of negative 8. We get rid of negative 8 by adding 8. So we're going to add 8 to both sides. And again, we have to be careful because this 4, remember, is actually negative. So we're bringing down a negative 4n. 16 plus 8 is 24. We're going to divide both sides by negative 4. And that gives us n equals negative 6. We want to check our solution by plugging a negative 6 in for n. So the original problem was negative 4 times the parenthesis 2 plus negative 6, or you can write 2 minus 6. I actually typically write 2 minus 6, but I just want you to understand that the reason why the sign changed is because this 6 is negative. So we have negative 4 times 2 minus 6 is also negative 4, and negative 4 times negative 4 is positive 16. So we get 16 equals 16. I've moved the next couple of examples over into the middle of the page because now we're going to have some fractions. You'll notice on this one we don't have the distributive property, we don't have parentheses anywhere, but we do have fractions. And we get rid of fractions by multiplying by the denominator. So we look across the problem and we see a common denominator in the two fractions of 9. And what you do is you actually multiply both sides of the equation by that 9. So we kind of draw parentheses around everything and we multiply both sides of the equation by 9. Here's what happens on the left-hand side. If we multiply 9 times 7 over 9. Those 9's are going to cancel. Think about if I put 9 over 1, we do some cross canceling, and we get 7. On the left or the right hand side, we do 9 times 2n, and that's 18n, plus, same thing happens here, the 9, if I put this over 1, those 9's cancel, and I just get 1. When you multiply a fraction by its denominator, you are left with the numerator. And that's kind of a quick tip to help you. When you multiply a fraction by its denominator, you're left with the numerator. Now we have an equation that's 2 steps from the previous day, so we subtract 1 from both sides, and we get 6 equals 18n. Divide both sides by 18. 18 doesn't go into 6, but 6 over 18 can reduce. If we divide the top and bottom by 6, we get that n equals 1/3. Now we want to check our solution, and this one's going to be a little bit tougher to check because we have a fraction, but that's okay. So I'm going to rewrite the problem. 7 over 9 equals 2 times 1/3 plus 1/9. That was the original equation, plugging the 1/3 in for n. So we get 7 over 9 equals 2/3 plus 1/9. We need to get a common denominator so that we can add the fractions together. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by 3. That's going to give us 6/9. 7 over 9 equals 6 over 9 plus 1 over 9 is 7 over 9. So you can see we get a true statement, 7/9 equals 7/9, so we know that our answer of 1/3 is correct. So we're going to practice this again, except this time when you see w over 3 plus 6 over 15 equals 1 over 15, hopefully you're recognizing here we don't have the same denominator. So we have to fix that by multiplying by their common denominator or the greatest common factor, the least common multiple of the two. So 3 and 15 both go into 15. Oops, I'm going to draw it like this. We want to multiply both sides by 15. Where you have to be careful is with this first one. Because the 15 is not going to cancel the 3 completely, it's just going to reduce. We're not just left with w. So you could do some side work. 15 over 1 times w over 3 gives me, I cross cancel, it's going to give me 5w. So 5w plus, these 15s will cancel. So that 15 will cancel, and you're going to just be left with 6. Then over here, the 15s cancel, and you're just left with 1. So you can see what happens here. That 3 cancels with the 15, but it leaves you with a 5. So you have 5w plus 6 equals 1. Now we have a two-step equation. Subtract 6 from both sides. 5w equals -5. Divide both sides by 5, and we get w equals -1. For our check, I'll do it over here on the left. -1 over 3 plus 6 over 15 equals 1 over 15. So I need a common denominator, so multiply top and bottom by 5. That's -5 plus -5/15 plus 6/15. -5 plus 6 is 1, so we get 1/15 equal to 1/15. So that's correct, which means our answer of -1 is also correct. Finally, this last one, I made this one a little ugly, but it's distributive property and fractions. So when you have the distributive property, the first thing you want to do is distribute. 1/2 times x is 1/2 x plus 1/2 times 3/4. Remember, multiply across the top and multiply across the bottom. So now we have two fractions and we need to clear them. I can't clear them with a 2 because this 8 is bigger, but 2 does go into 8. So we're going to multiply everything times 8. Remember the left side and the right side, that's the same thing as multiplying each term by 8. I probably would prefer to write it this way instead of using the giant parentheses, because now I can cancel with each individual 8. So 2 goes into 8 4 times. That's 4 times 1, or 4, and don't forget your variable here, x, plus, these 8's cancel and I'm just left with 3, and 8 times 1 is 8. So we're going to subtract 3 from both sides. 4x equals 5, and I'm going to divide both sides by 4 and kind of bring this over here. X equals 5 over 4, or you can rewrite it as 1 and 1/4. Now we want to check our solution, so that's 1/2 times 5 over 4 plus 3 over 4, and does that equal 1? So we have 1/2 times 5/4 plus 3/4 is 8/4, and if we multiply here 1 times 8 and 2 times 4, we get 8 over 8 equals 1 when you multiply across the top and bottom, and 8 over 8 is 1, so we get 1 equals 1. Whoops, and we know that we have the correct answer of 5/4. Now I know for a lot of you that this is not going to be easy. Several of you are not fans of fractions or decimals, and solving equations is not always easy, but I need you to give it your best shot. So we'll be working on distributing, clearing fractions, and then solving equations.